My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 75 fight card, giving you my DraftKings predictions and plays. Before I do, let's look at some of the wild success that our premium members at We Want Picks have had. In the last month, we have had a $78,000 winning DraftKings ticket, a $50,000 winning DraftKings ticket, a $13,000 winning DraftKings ticket, many individual hundreds of dollars. Mitch took $150, turned it into $2,000. The premium members have absolutely been killing it. They've been absolutely killing it. First of all, it's only $10 a month to become a premium member. Second of all, the premium membership is going to get you all sorts of tools and information. The very second you sign up at WeWantPicks.com, you unlock everything. Bets, picks, everything. And DraftKings has a whole full suite of tools and information. The first things you're going to get is a breakdown of our favorite cash core players, GPP core players, live dogs, leverage, fade. You're going to get this cheat sheet. This is populated Fridays by 6 p.m. with the DraftKings ownership projections, the DraftKings scoring projections, and the leverage. The leverage is a proprietary number. We literally have a guy, not me. We have a guy behind the scenes that builds out the ownership projections himself. These are not copied from anywhere else. And every single week, we either have the best ownership projections in the game or the second best ownership projections in the game. And that's us against the big boys, not us against clowns with Patreons. That's us against the real fantasy companies, absolutely crushing it. And then you're going to get player pool rankings. We're going to rank every single fighter in their specific salary group, depending on the type of contest you want to enter. You can then take all of that valuable information and throw it into our DraftKings optimizer. This optimizer will be preloaded on Fridays with ownership and scoring projections, those two things. I merged those together and made it one thing. And then you come in here, you click a few buttons, and it'll spit out a lineup for you. It'll spit out 150 lineups for you. Become a premium member. It's only $10 a month, and the success is right here. These are premium members that went out of their way to say, hey, guys, I did this because of you. Thank you very, very much. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It is only $10. There's the sales pitch. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We had 14 fights yesterday, and now we're down to 12. Let's start at the bottom, work our way up to the top. And opening up the card, we have Modestas Bukauskas taking on Zach Pauga. Modestas Bukauskas is a versatile striker. He's very dangerous on his feet. He's more of a counter striker than an offensive guy, but he will light you up. He's got very solid 71% takedown defense, and frankly, had a 100% takedown defense up until his last fight where he beat Tyson Pedro, and he was a pretty big underdog there. He was cut in 2021 after a couple of losses, came back, won on the regional scene, and then just beat Tyson Pedro. But he only scored 52 points in that win. And that's what's concerning about him at this ridiculous $9,000 price point, because he's taking on Zach Pauga. Zach, pre-UFC, was a wrestler. He'll come forward, throw some bombs, shoot some takedowns, have some success doing that. Current Zach Pauga was like 0 for 197 in takedown attempts against Jordan Wright. Held him against the cage. This 9 minutes and 40 seconds of control time is against the cage. But he did score somewhat well. Listen, $7,200. I do think Zach probably loses because Modestas has the much better hands, has the takedown defense, but you need underdogs in your lineup, right? You can't afford all favorites. And I think Zach Pauga is a very good underdog to consider for your lineup, because even if it is this absolute dreadful, boring WrestleFest, well, 74 points or anything that resembles that is actually pretty solid for a $7,200 fighter. Let's go ahead and move on. Then we have, you're going to need one of these two guys in your lineup. We got Ronnie Lawrence and Dan Argueta. You are going to need one of them in your lineup because they both score really well, and whoever wins is going to put up a ton of points. They're both wrestlers. Ronnie Lawrence, a very aggressive wrestler. His takedowns, he averages 7 takedowns per fight, which is effing ridiculous, right? It's actually 7 takedowns per 15 minutes. So in this fight that was finished, and he had 8 takedowns, brings up that average. But the reality is, Ronnie Lawrence, if he is this guy, if he's the one coming forward and he's the one dictating the wrestling, he puts up numbers. 6 takedowns, 8 takedowns. He puts up numbers, 131 fantasy points, 135. But this last fight was a little concerning. Said Kaboob, that's definitely not his fucking name, Kakramanov was the one pushing the wrestling pace. He was coming forward. He was taking down Ronnie over and over and over again. Ronnie is an absolute dog. He kept getting up, but then he kept getting taken down. He did get one takedown of his own, and he's fighting Daniel Argueta in this matchup. Daniel Argueta, short notice UFC debut against Damon Jackson. The only reason he lost that fight is he gave up a last-minute scramble. If he didn't give up that last-minute scramble, he probably would have won this fight and put 70-something points on the board as a short-notice underdog. He's coming off this win over Nick Aguirre. Listen, I get it. Nick Aguirre's not the greatest of fighters, but Dan Argueta showed us his wrestling acumen. He came forward. He shot takedowns. He's a short, stocky guy. He's going to bomb away, pressure heavy, shoot takedowns. He had 4 takedowns, a reversal in that fight, 10 minutes of control time. He put up 101 points on the board. And now you see why I'm saying you need one of these guys in your lineup. If you're that confident in Ronnie, if your logic is, yeah, Ronnie lost to Kakramanov, but Kakramanov is a different level, and you're that confident in Ronnie, then he should be in your lineup. Spend that money. I like Dan Argueta. I think it's a super close fight. Whoever's going to shoot first is going to get this done. I like Dan Argueta, $7,500. I think he's a very, very solid underdog because if we get that wrestling pace, that wrestling pressure, we're going to put up some very real numbers here. Both of these guys, whoever wins, one of them is going to do really, really well. Then we got Tereza Bleda taking on Gabriella Fernandes. Tereza Bleda is a grappler. She's a very determined grappler. She's going to come forward, work for takedowns. She's not desperate with the takedowns, though. She'll strike with you. She'll hang out on the feet and then try to work some angles, catch a kick if you throw a kick, and then get you to the ground. Once she's on top, she's very methodical, takes her time, and works from there. If she's off her back, her jiu-jitsu is not as good as it is on top, but she's not going to be on her back in this fight. She's coming off this loss to Natalia Silva, but Natalia Silva is a savage, and she was able to take Natalia down and get almost 6 minutes of control time. She's taking on Gabriella Fernandes. Gabriella Fernandes, very good striker, has some solid BJJ as well, but Gabriella Fernandes can be taken down. She's dangerous on her feet. Not very dangerous on the ground, but does have good enough jiu-jitsu to not get submitted. Gabriella Fernandes will light you up, and she will continue to fight to the end. She was taken down, I believe, 6 times. No, she was taken down 4 times by Jasmine Jasudavicius in her UFC debut, and she was controlled for 11 minutes in that fight. But that's Jasmine. So the question becomes, does Tereza have the same takedowns as Jasmine? Of course not, right? Jasmine was a Canadian national champion or something like that. So Tereza's not going to have the same level of wrestling, but she's going to have much better jiu-jitsu than Jasmine did. Tereza should win this fight. She has the blueprint right in front of her, right? Come forward, shoot takedowns, control. She should be able to do that, but she is only 21 years old. She's very young. And if she burns herself out going desperate for takedowns, over scrambles, ends up on her feet, Gabriella Fernandes can put her out. Tereza should win this fight. She should absolutely get it done, but I am not spending the $9,500 on a 21-year-old who was just knocked out in her UFC debut. Then we have Carlos Hernandez, and he's taking on Dennis Bondar. This is an interesting fight. I'm going to tell you right now, I like Dennis Bondar, but Carlos Hernandez is a grappler. His striking is just okay, right? He's got some solid accuracy, delivers some power there, but he isn't the most technically sound guy on his feet, but he's got a nice jab, a straight right that follows. He's another one of these guys, phenomenal BJJ, trash wrestling. He is coming off this loss to Alan Nascimento. You see no takedowns there because he couldn't get it done. And he was the one who ended up getting submitted, but he wasn't out grappled. He was just blasted in the face and then submitted. But he put up an incredible 1 point for people that had him in their lineup. He's taking on Dennis Bondar. You're going to see, oh my God, he lost. This guy sucks. Well, that's not what happened. He broke his elbow. He was in a scramble, posted, bang, elbow snap. That was broken. So sort of a deceiving loss, if you will, because it's straight up injury, and it was pretty early, so didn't really get enough to know what he actually is. But he did have that takedown very, very early in that fight. But he's a wild guy. He comes charging forward, winging punches in all directions, and then he will drop to your legs. He'll pick you up. He'll slam you. He'll scramble. He is just an aggressive, come-forward guy. Again, he's coming off this freak loss to Malcolm Gordon. And this fight's sort of a recent addition to the card. Let's hope that Dennis's elbow is all healed up. Carlos is dumb hittable. Dennis has incredible wrestling. His BJJ defense should be good enough. I like Dennis Bondar to get it done. $7,900. I'll probably spend that. And really, because of the takedowns. Because on their feet, they're probably about even, right? Dennis is wild. Carlos is a little gun shy, but he's got a nice jab. And then on the ground, Carlos is going to have the jiu-jitsu advantage, but Dennis is going to have the wrestling and scramble advantage. So I trust him to not get submitted and just keep rushing forward and beating up Carlos Hernandez. Then we have Cristian Quinonez taking on Kang. Kang, well, we'll talk about Cristian first. Cristian Quinonez, he's a relentless forward pressure guy. He baits you into a brawl, and then he's going to grapple with you. His technique is not the cleanest, and we see this a lot, right? Guys that don't have the cleanest technique, but just have forward pressure, forward aggression, and just keep coming and coming and coming. He is going to create scrambles. He is going to have solid submission defense. He is going to try to blow right through you, try to get things done. That could be a problem at times because sometimes he's overly aggressive. He'll get a takedown and then just literally roll right through it because he's just working too hard, if you will. But he's coming off this win over Khalid Taha. Put him out. Khalid's no longer in the UFC. He's taking on Kang. This guy's very well-rounded. He's got range. He used that range to touch you up. He'll use that same range to work in some takedowns. He's averaging about 2 per fight. He hasn't really gone to his takedowns recently, but you can see here his first couple of UFC outings all had takedowns in them and multiple takedowns at that. He's coming off that win over Danal Bagarai where his jab looked absolutely incredible. His jab was insane. Just lit him up with that jab. And it's an interesting fight because I think Kang can absolutely win this fight. $7,400 is a great price point. But Cristian's non-stop pressure can absolutely be an issue here. So we're going to learn a lot about both of these guys in this fight. I would say pick your side because Cristian's non-stop pressure can put up some very real points. Or Kang can, he's in the 7,000s here. So even if it's a low-scoring win like the 70 we got out of him versus Dana, we can see, we're going to see what he's like. We're going to see what that takedown defense is. We're going to see how he can deal with pressure. Because in the Dana fight, that jab he slowed people down, kept that jab out there, kept people at distance. So Kang's going to be an interesting guy here. If you think he's going to get it done, I know a lot of you do. $7,400 is worth it. I think Cristian will probably end up worth his price tag as well because he's going to come forward, grapple, shoot. Then we have, listen, it's MMA. Nothing's a guarantee. Nothing. It's a fist fight. Anything could happen. Alessandro Costa is the second closest thing to a guarantee you're going to get on this card. $9,400, he should be in your lineup. He's a solid striker, good takedown defense. I mean, solid submission defense. He throws everything with 100% intent. And he's fighting Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick took a couple of years off. He basically left the sport saying, I don't have enough time with my family, my father. He doesn't have kids, I don't think. But anyway, with my father, and I want a better relationship with him. So he stepped away from the sport. 3 years later, 2.5 years later, whatever it is, he comes back. Charles Johnson just beats the brakes off of this dude. Beats the absolute brakes. You're going to see he was credited with a takedown. He didn't have a takedown. There was no takedown. He shot it. They hit the ground, and within a half a second, fully reversed. So no takedown. They gave it to him anyway. But Jimmy Flick, going to be dangerous in the submissions, right? If they're on the ground and he has time, he's going to be dangerous. This win over Cody Durden was a wild submission win. So, of course, he's going to be dangerous on the ground, but I just don't see that happening. I think it's looking a little more like this. I think he's sort of back. Shouldn't really be back. The sport passed him by in a couple of years. Probably wasn't doing what he was supposed to do in that time off. I think Alessandro Costa gets it done. And gets it done inside the distance. Then we have Muslim Salikhov taking on Nicolas Dalby. Listen, Salikhov, these guys are both old. We got 39 versus 38. Nobody really has the youth on their side. Salikhov is I believe it's Kung Fu. Yeah, it says right there, freaking king of Kung Fu. Old school martial arts style, and he uses that. He's got that martial arts wide stance, lots of spinning stuff. He'll attack from all angles, and then he'll work in wrestling. Wrestling is not the best, but when he does wrestle hard, he can get those wins. And he's got some very real power. He's coming off that knockout over Andre Fiallo. We now know that Fiallo is very, 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 very chinny. But Salikhov does have some power in his hands, does have the wrestling, and does have that martial arts, that old school martial arts technique. And so does Nicolas Dalby. He's a karate style guy. He stays mobile. He switches stances. He does have good power himself. Doesn't always put it together, but he does have some power there himself. He has a very low 30% takedown accuracy, but he will try to shoot some takedowns. He's a well-rounded guy. He's going to work hard in these fights, but he's not dangerous. He's not the type of guy that's going to get you out of there. He does have pressure, has a solid chin, weirdo breathing techniques you'll see in the fight. I think Salikhov gets it done. I don't think Salikhov is worth the money, though. I mean, look at this. Nicolas Dalby is a durable guy. Decision. A very durable guy. $7,000. If you need an underdog slot filled in your lineup, that's a great price point. I am not, while I do think Salikhov wins this fight because of the wrestling, I don't think he's worth $9,200. I think that's crazy. Then we have Torres, Manuel Torres, taking on Nicolas Motta. Manuel Torres, well-rounded guy, dangerous striking, dangerous grappling. Striking is not technical, but he does use nice knees from the clinch. Really, really well. Head kicks. He's a long and skinny guy, and he uses that length to his advantage. If he's got you in a clinch, those knees are coming from a quarter mile away, and the leverage that they build is insane. If you're on the ground, he's using really long limbs to try to wrap you up. He's going to work triangles. He's going to work power guillotines. He's going to try to wrap you up. Dangerous everywhere, but can be hittable at times. And he's fighting Nicolas Motta. Nicolas Motta has some very real power, just blew the brakes off of Cameron Van Camp. Obviously, Jim Miller caught him, knocked him out in their fight in his UFC debut. That caught a lot of people off guard. Nicolas Motta was a prospect a lot of people were interested in, and an old Jim Miller took him out. But he's a good striker. He's explosive. He's athletic. He moves well with his speed. He's got diversity in that striking. Takedown defense is a very solid 100%, which allows him to be loose on his feet. It is tricky, right? We've seen him knocked out. Jim Miller knocked him out. We've also seen the power he has. We've seen his technique. I think $7,300, I think he's worth it. Honestly, I will probably squeeze him into my lineup because I think Nicolas Motta can get this done. Manuel Torres at $8,900. The problem is whoever wins this fight is going to win by finish. So it's sort of, don't let me convince you one way or another. If you think Manuel Torres wins, well, $8,900 to get over 100 points is solid. If you think Nicolas Motta wins, $7,300 to get well over, or to get over 100 points is well worth it. So I'm going to be on the Motta side, but again, whoever wins that fight is going to score some very real points. Then we got Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini is a chinny grappler. I feel bad calling him chinny, but he is. Jamal Emmers blasted him. Damon Jackson blasted him. And but he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. The Jamal Emmers fight, he was able to recover. He dropped like a bag of sand, recovered, scooped up his ankle, and got that submission win. Looked incredible after he was dropped. The Damon Jackson win, he almost didn't have any time to do anything. Damon Jackson just came charging across the cage, blasted him, lit him up real quick, and finished him. I think Pat Sabatini wins this fight. The chinniness concerns me a little bit, but I think he wins this fight. And even a decision win. The guy is a grapple-heavy guy. He's scoring over 100 points, even in decision wins. So I do think he wins. If you want to spend the $9,100, it just comes down to, are you worried about his chin or not? Because he's fighting Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida is a very powerful striker. He throws heavy 1-2s. He comes forward. He sets up a big right hand. And if he senses, smells blood in the water, he's going to come at you. He just knocked out Mike Trezano. Mike Trezano is a very good striker. That was an impressive win. This is all going to come down to Lucas Almeida's takedown defense and what Pat Sabatini can do without getting hit in the face. So I think Pat Sabatini wins this fight. And if he wins, we know for a fact he's going to score really, really well. The problem is he just got knocked out cold. A couple fights ago, he was dropped bad. If Lucas Almeida can find the chin, that's it. It's entirely up to you. If you think Pat Sabatini avoids the big power, then he absolutely should be in your lineup and can put up very real points. I'm going to have multiple lineups. Pat Sabatini will be in one of them. And Lucas Almeida will be in as well, because at $7,100 with that kind of power fighting somebody chinny, my honest opinion is Pat Sabatini should be fine, should get it done, because I think that knockout in his last fight might have been the best thing that happened to him. because now he's been knocked out cold. And he might just come wrestle, immediately start shooting, immediately. And if that's the case, he's going to put up some very, very real points. Then we have Cristian Leroy Duncan versus Armen Petrosian. The next Armen should be in your lineup. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he's taking on Armen Petrosian. Cristian Leroy Duncan, he's a high-pressure guy. He's got 7 finishes in 8 fights, multiple regional championships. So he's sort of been fighting these bigger fights for a little while now. He can be a little sloppy, right? He's wild. He just comes rushing forward, but he's incredibly, incredibly dangerous on the feet. He's got solid ground and pound if he ends up on top, and he's coming off this knockout win over Dusko Todorovic. He's taking on Armen Petrosian. Armen Petrosian is a professional kickboxer, at least was at one point. He's a fun striker. He can be a bit of a brawler himself, and he relies on his chin quite a bit, and that chin does hold up. He has very, very solid scramble skills. His scramble skills are incredible. He will stand back up if you even think about taking him down. He'll get taken down, and then he'll pop right back up, scramble, work his way out of there. He's coming off this win over A.J. Dobson, where he was taken down 3 times, but he only gave up 49 seconds of control. But he didn't put up any real points. 77 when he was a $9,100 fighter, 28 in a loss, 81 to win. 81 to win when he was 7,700. Obviously, that's phenomenal. This is a tricky fight because I do think Cristian Leroy Duncan gets it done. I think he runs forward. I think he has the solid pressure. I don't think he's going to knock out Armen, but I think he can touch him up, light him up, and really make stuff happen. I mentioned he's coming off that win over Dusko, but Dusko hurt his knee, so that wasn't the cleanest display, if you will. But I think Cristian Leroy gets it done. Armen Petrosian, I'm going to keep saying this on a lot of these $7,000 fighters, he's the better value. If they were dead even money, I'm going Cristian, even slight favorite money. But $7,600 on Armen, that could be worth it. But I'm not going to have either one in my lineup, but Cristian should absolutely get it done. Co-main event, Armen Tsarukyan should be in your lineup. That's a freaking ridiculous price point. But he needs to be in your lineup. He needs to be. He's either going to get 1 million takedowns or he's going to get a finish. Or the most disappointing thing that could happen in this fight is he gets a finish at the 3-minute mark after 1 takedown. That's the most disappointing thing because then he's only going to put up 90-something points. He's not going to blow past. What we want to see is this. We want to see the Matt Frevola domination. We want to see 1 million takedowns, a late finish, something like that. The Joel Alvarez fight. Let's get it to the 2nd round. Let's put up 117 points. That's what we want to see. And I think we could get that out of him. I think he can get a bunch of takedowns, get it later into the fight because he's fighting Joaquim Silva. And he's a dangerous guy. He's got power in his hands, BJJ black belt. It's not going to matter in this fight, but he is a dangerous guy. $6,400, it's not worth it. It is not worth, not even on a flyer lineup. I just do not see it happening. This is a fist fight. Anything could happen, as always, but Armen Tsarukyan should absolutely get this done, and you should spend that money. Then we got the main event, Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier. I love Marvin Vettori at $8,000. He will be in my lineup. Yeah, there are times where he doesn't score insanely well, right? Like the Dolidze fight. But that was 3 rounds. We're getting 5 rounds out of him. He's got a head like a brick, so he's not going to get knocked out. He does have takedowns. He's got decent striking. And I think he beats Jared Cannonier. It's just that simple. But if you like Jared Cannonier, the problem is he's the favorite. At least in DraftKings. In real life, Marvin Vettori is the favorite. But they gave Jared Cannonier favorite money in DraftKings. I'm not going to spend favorite money on Jared Cannonier. Yes, he's a big, strong, athletic guy that hits incredibly hard. But Derek Brunson was taking him down, doing whatever the hell he wanted before he got caught. Derek Brunson's 40, something like that. So Jared Cannonier, who's he knocking out? Just grapplers that are a bit desperate, right? Branch, desperate grappler. Hermanson, somewhat of a desperate grappler. Reyes, that guy gets knocked out with a breeze. So then we have him in actual stand-up fights. Sean Strickland won this fight. This was a bad decision. Sean Strickland won that fight. Kelvin Gastelum, okay, he beat Kelvin. That's actually a very solid win. I just think Marvin Vettori is going to come forward, be the better striker, at least the more consistent striker. Definitely not the more powerful striker. And then work in takedowns. Jared Cannonier is a big, strong guy. He's got some takedown defense, but Marvin Vettori should be able to get it done. He's got some nice, clean doubles. He can work trips as well. I think Marvin Vettori gets it done. He's the cheaper fighter, and I think he wins. And he's the favorite in real life. $8,000, I will spend that money. You have 5 rounds to work with. Guys, become a premium member. Our premium members are killing it. Yeah, you're not going to win 50 grand every single week. But our community has had multiple tickets. We have a $50,000 ticket a couple of weeks ago, a $78,000 ticket a couple of weeks ago, $13,000 ticket a couple of weeks ago. Our buddy Joey T won $60,000 about 6 months ago. I mean, they're absolutely crushing it. Absolutely crushing it. Be like them. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. You're going to get all the breakdowns, all the information, ownership projections. Then you can take that information and you can use it with our optimizer. Each one of these individual things is worth far more than 10, let alone the collective. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member.